That's it. Yes. The classwork for the next section, this is going to practice the entire hypothesis test. You'll notice on the practice sheet, because I didn't want to redo it, it has something about type 1 and type 2 errors. We're not doing that this semester because I'm cutting out a little material. And that's one thing I'm going to cut out is type 1 and type 2. So you shouldn't have any questions about type 1 or type 2 at this point. So part 1 we've already completed, which is what type of test, what are the null and alternative hypotheses, level of significance, and the sample data. And we're going to go through that again one more time, and then we're going to look at the bottom part. Okay, so it'll give you a chance to practice again. The drug Lipitor is meant to reduce cholesterol and LDL cholesterol. In clinical trials, 19 out of 863 patients taking Lipitor daily complained of flu-like symptoms. Suppose that it's known that 1.9% of all patients taking competing drugs experience flu-like symptoms. Determine if there's sufficient evidence to conclude that more than 1.9% of Lipitor users experience flu-like symptoms as a side effect at the alpha equals 0.01 level of significance. So what type of test? It's a proportion test. No word mean there. So we're looking about P. We know the old data is 1.9%. So 0.019. And we are asking in the question more than 1.9% of users, so greater than 0.019. And our alpha was 0.01. We don't do the mean data, we do the proportion data here, and we had 19 out of 863. Okay, let's go to the bottom part. Again, skip number 4, go to step 5. So now we have to use StatCrunch, either T-stat or proportion stats. We're going to be doing a proportion stat because it was about a proportion. So in StatCrunch, we're going to go to Stat, Proportion Stats, one sample with summary. Right in the box under proportion, we said X was 19 and sample size was 863. And right above that, we said hypothesis test with P equals 0.019. And we said it was a proportion test for greater or right-tailed test. So this is straight out of the box for step 2 and step 3. And, oh, something's messed up. Oh, I put 2 decimal places. Compute. So it repeats what our hypothesis test was. You can look at your sheet, make sure you typed it in right. And the 2 pertinent pieces of information we're looking for are our test statistic here. So we get our test statistic is Z equals 0.65. We always round to 2. And our p-value, sometimes it's rounded to 3 or 4. I usually just leave it alone. So 0.2582. that should be an equals, 0.2582. So going back to the worksheet, we write in our test statistic. That we had z equals 0.649 or 0.65. And our p-value, p is 0.2582. Do we reject the null hypothesis? We compare the p-value to alpha. P is greater than alpha. So we do not reject the null hypothesis. And then we go down to the corresponding part of step 7. Since we cannot reject the null hypothesis, there is not sufficient evidence to make a conclusion. Or we want to say there is not sufficient evidence to support the claim that more than 1%, more than 1.9% of Lipitor users experience flu-like symptoms.